What a time to be alive. Huh? So we are talking about AI-powered adversaries and how to protect ourselves from these kind of advanced threats. Yeah. So digital transformation. So digital transformation was always happening. Yeah. So it was for years together we have seen digital transformation, but what is happening today is unprecedented, and it is happening at a much faster pace because of real-time payments. Yeah. So the real-time payments is actually shifting the landscape significantly, and at the same time that is also creating a lot of opportunity for the threat actors to exploit. So I have listed the 4 challenges here, but I wanted to start off with one of the key challenges in this space. See, while this transformation is happening, a lot of new age systems are getting developed, and at the same time you will see the legacy systems are also operational. So today the major challenge for the industry is to integrate the legacy and the modern solution. So this is one of the major challenges. And few months back I was doing a session in Indonesia. So Indonesia is also adapting the real-time payments. So their top priority is real-time payments. So a lot of integration is happening there. But one of the key use case for them, apart from implementing real-time payments, they also wanted to ensure there is cross-border integration as well. Because Indonesia has such a high influx of tourists, the government there is enforcing that people traveling from different parts of the world will come and still use the digital payments. So a lot of integration between countries, between systems is happening in the digital payment industry, and that's why you see a lot of threats are also emerging. And other than the technological innovation, if you see, there is always the regulatory requirements. So I was just going through an article recently, and it says that 130 countries today have their own privacy regulation. 130 countries. So please imagine if your organization is multinational, global, how many regulatory requirements you will have to meet. Yeah. So I know security leaders, their job is actually to hop on from one regulatory audit to another regulatory audit. So that's their full-time job. Okay, I feel so bad for this because regulatory fatigue is actually a big problem, right? So these are some of the major challenges that we are seeing. But ultimately, so what needs to happen is, as security leaders, the number one priority is to enable business transformation. So we have to be seen as enablers. At the same time, the security cannot be compromised. So this fine balance is going to be absolutely critical if we have to be successful today. So now let's look at this evolving threat landscape. So what is happening in this evolving threat landscape? Let's take a quick look at that one. So when it comes to security, the ingress is completely changing today. Yeah? So if you see the exploiting zero-day vulnerabilities or smart phishing, and supply chain compromise, it's evolved greatly. Yeah, why? I will tell you shortly why it is evolving. But let's for a minute agree that ingress tactics are significantly evolving, and lateral movement is becoming stealthy. Yeah? So today you can use legitimate software that is available in your network to do lateral movements. So that's how it is. Credential dumping and advanced evasion techniques have come. And the third is exploitation of AI and machine learning. So obviously the topic is also AI-based adversaries, but if you see, let's take ingress, right? I keep getting this question. So if the adversaries, the threat actors have AI, what can they do differently? Practically, right? See, a lot of people are talking about breaking encryption, quantum computing, etc., etc. But what can happen practically in the next few years? If you see, the phishing, the spear phishing will evolve. it will become very, very matured, and it will become highly, highly organized. Yeah. Second, if there is a known vulnerability, a 0-day, today it takes significant time for anybody to exploit. But with AML and the likes of ChatGPT, creating an exploit is just matter of few seconds. So you don't even need the skills to create an exploit. The tool will actually do it, and that can be used to get inside the network. So the ingress tactics is going to significantly change with help of AI and ML. And increased targeting of the real-time payments. So we are talking about digital payments. So we are looking at mobile malware. We are looking at more and more man-in-the-middle kind of attacks. And because of AI, you can now see large-scale attacks, right? The scale of the attacks is going to significantly increase because of the availability of AI and machine learning. And we also have because of the transformation, there is a heavy use of cloud. So this we have seen for many years. But if you look at cloud-based attack strategies is going to further improve, right? So misconfiguration is a big problem. Shared poor access management and shared technology vulnerability is an issue, right? So we have seen recently a world's leading provider of email solution. So their own environment got compromised, yeah? So you will see that it's not just your environment getting impacted. If your cloud service provider, their environment gets compromised, then you are also going to see trickling effort. So insecure API is also another key issue. Last but not least, when the final objective is done, which is an attacker achieving the final outcome, so you will see changes there as well. Significant disruption you will see, extracting sensitive information, and damage to reputation will happen. So in the morning discussion, in the ransomware discussion, if you see, the panel talked about double extortions, right? So double extortion is that you encrypt the systems, you take the data, and then you threaten that you will publish the data, make it public. There is also triple extortion, right? So take the data and also threaten the company that you will make this data public, not only to general public, also they will reach out to their customers, to the regulators, right? So these kind of tactics are going to significantly change in the upcoming future. So now let's look at the current situation, right? So the current situation, what we have when it comes to cyber defense, right? So you have the traditional technology. If you see traditional sources like your firewall, IDS, IPS, AV, etc. So they are going to remain there, and they are sending logs today to the SIM. And there are modern solutions like your EDR, NDR, CASB kind of a solutions. They have the capability to identify threats on its own. So they have built-in intelligence, AI, etc. is already there. But there are two challenges with this approach. Yeah. So a solution like SIM is not very effective in integrating the legacy solutions and also the modern solutions, right? And at the same time, the modern solutions, they are evolving. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that they are very, very effective. I know customers who have got CASB solutions, so they have paid so much to get CASB, DLP kind of a solution, and they have more than 70% false positives with that solution, right? So, end of the day, as SOC analyst, see, we have been promising the SOC analyst for many, many years that we will solve their problem, right? So we have made multi-million-dollar investments, and we have told them that, hey, see, at one point in time, your life will improve. But with this kind of a setup, they are looking at severe fatigue. Yeah. So now let's address the elephant in the room. So all these multi-million-dollar investments, what is the ROI that we are going to get out of it? Yeah. So that is the biggest question. And how do we solve this problem? Extended threat detection is the solution, right? So if you see, we are introducing an MXDR platform, which is essentially an orchestrator, right? So what happens now is, you have the traditional solutions, which will continue sending logs to SIM, and the SIM will generate the alerts. And the modern solutions like EDR, NDR, and CASP, they will send alerts directly to MXDR. So alerts from SIM and alerts from these modern solutions, everything will come into MXDR. MXDR, essentially what it will do is, it will aggregate, it will correlate, and it will orchestrate. The end result is going to be meaningful and actionable threats for the environment, right? So essentially what we are trying to do is, we are trying to smartly integrate both the worlds together and make the best use out of the investments that we have already made in the enterprise. So today you have a SIM, so you can't rip and replace the SIM. Yeah, so you would have made $1 million investment in a SIM and you've got the license. If somebody comes and says, hey, please replace it, that's not going to work. Yeah, and at the same time, many modern solutions will keep coming, right? And it will have its own built-in intelligence. And if somebody says that, hey, don't use it, right? That is also not the right solution. So we need something that will piece all these things together and make the best use of the investments that we have made. That's where the MXDR solution will play a significant role. So let's look at the MXDR logical diagram. So for better understanding, let's look at the MXDR logical diagram. So today MXDR is capable of taking logs, not just from your current IT environment, it can take it from any environment. So the logs can go, the alerts also can go. So if there is a capability to send alerts, it can ingest alerts as well. So the threat detection is done using AIML, so AIML based threat detection with help of threat intelligence and threat hunting. So all coming together in terms of making the threat detection more and more meaningful. The SOC identifying the threats, so you have the 24/7 threat monitoring, essentially identifying the incidents, and SOAR, which is essentially part of the MXDR platform, will automate the response. And you also have IR and forensics, which is again complementary. If you have to handle a situation, you need IR or forensic, that is available complementary. And you can see this entire logical diagram is aligned to the NIST framework. So you have prepare, you have detect, investigate, contain, eradicate, recover, and post-incident activity. So everything aligned together in this MXDR logical diagram. Now, can MXDR go beyond just traditional security? Can it do more than that? Yeah. So yes, MXDR can go beyond your traditional boundaries. So how? Right? So let's look at this simple use case. So you have cybersecurity alerts. You have traditional cybersecurity alerts with SIM, all the solutions that we have. And we also have a FRM kind of a solution. So all the banks and all the payment gateways and all that, so they have the FRM solution, fraud and risk management solution. So what we can do is, with MXDR platform, we can integrate both cybersecurity alerts and the fraud management alerts can come into this one single platform. And with help of enrichment and context, you can make the threat detection even more meaningful. Yeah. So how it will be helpful, right? See, fraud and risk management essentially is consumer focused. So you look at somebody trying to fish a consumer and try to take money out of their account. So it is very consumer driven, right? But if you look at, if there is a compromise in your cybersecurity environment and subsequently there is a fraud or multitude of fraud happening, that is the biggest disaster, right? So by bringing these two together, you can actually make cross-domain threats more and more meaningful and achievable. Yeah, and if SOAR is there, then the response can happen, not just cybersecurity response. We can also do fraud and risk management response. Today, millisecond is what you are going to get to take action when you identify a fraud. A solution like SOAR can do it across the enterprise. Yeah. So this is a use case. The benefit, if you see, enhanced capability with the solution like MXDR, and you also have enhanced risk management and unified compliance and reporting. So all this is possible with a solution like MXDR. So I talked about AI-powered threat detection. Obviously, we are talking about AI-powered adversaries. So how can AI ML help in terms of detection in the MXDR platform? So you have the telemetry. So you have the telemetry coming essentially from the users and from the entity. So this is very basic. So from the user and entity, you are getting the telemetry, and with help of AI ML. So what we generally do is we identify the anomalies. Yeah. So that is the primary objective of your AI ML algorithm, is to identify the anomalies, and that is not sufficient. Today, there are many solutions which is capable of creating a baseline and identifying the anomalies, but your AI ML itself will produce significantly higher false positives. Okay. So please understand. You take a simple example of a network or a system administrator. Yeah. A Windows administrator. He is going to define all the logic that you have created in AI ML. So he is going to log in into hundreds of machines in a day. He is going to log in early in the morning, right, in the night, midnight, early morning. It's whatever logic you have created, everything will be defined by this one person who is working in your environment, and constantly you will be seeing a lot of false positives in the environment, because if it is just anomaly detection, so applying AML. So what needs to be done for AML to be successful is you need to bring enrichment. When I say enrichment, threat intel is a great enrichment. Vulnerability assessment data is a great enrichment. Simple data like your asset, right? What is your critical asset? What is your crown jewel? All these are great opportunities to enrich your alerts. Yeah. And then you can also bring context. So when I say context, a simple context is an employee serving notice and he is doing certain activity. Employee serving notice is a context. Yeah. Your EDR which has AML built in is not going to add that context. Okay. So that's why you will see a CASB or EDR kind of a solution. They are going to throw a lot of false positives. So enrichment, context, along with priority and risk is what is going to do the trick in terms of identifying the proper threats, meaningful and actionable threats, even if you have AML. Yeah. So this is possible with the platform like MXDR. So the benefit you will see, you are focusing on high impact threats. You are going to significantly reduce the false positives. You're increasing the MTTD, the time to detect. And last but not least, AML algorithm can improve your use cases like recon. We talked about recon, how the recon is going to significantly improve with AI. You can identify lateral movement, privilege escalations, and data leaks. All this can be done with AML as long as you are able to bring enrichment, context, priority, and risk. Without that, your AML is not going to be effective. So, complementing MXDR, so what are the other services that is absolutely critical for securing digital payments? So I have classified into 4 buckets. So one, detect. For detect, if you see, first and foremost, I look at threat hunting. Threat hunting is very, very important. So manual threat hunting. So you can do a lot of automation in threat hunting, but but understanding the environment and doing manual threat hunting is absolutely critical. File integrity monitoring today is bare minimum. If you have to meet compliance, FIM is absolutely critical. But along with threat intel, FIM can bring a big impact. So what I'm saying is that if you have threat intel, so majority of the threat intel is other than IP address, you get a lot of hash values. But if a threat intel is producing hash values, from where will you get the data? So a solution like file integrity monitoring is absolutely critical for us to identify threats. Then you have deep web, dark web, and brand monitoring. So that is obviously you identify, we are talking about digital payments, fake applications, right? You find something in the dark web, deep web, so you should be able to take it down immediately. And last but not least, attack simulation. Attack simulation, so today RBI is mandating cyber drills. So attack simulation is you perform these attacks, it's not red teaming, you perform these attacks with an objective to make sure that the defense is working fine, your own defense is working fine, okay? So all the learnings from these things will get into your detection engineering. So your use cases, be it your regular use cases or AML use cases, everything will benefit if you have a proper detection engineering. Now, for enrichment, threat intel. So threat intel is absolutely critical, and if there is a lot of forensic like SISA, so we are PFIs, we are payment forensic investigators. We do a lot of investigation, so we create our own threat intel. Yeah, so threat intel specifically for digital payments coming from proper sources is going to be critical. Threat intel, sharing the threat intel within this community, the digital payments industry, is also going to be critical. And something like vulnerability management, if we can bring those kind of a data, it will always enrich your defense significantly. And for response, we have SOAR and IR. So IR is absolutely critical, and IR-based drills have to be conducted regularly for us to make sure that we are very effective. And last but not least, regulatory compliance. So why I brought regulatory compliance to this is that, see, ultimately in this industry, we have to meet the regulatory compliance requirements. And if there is a solution like MXDR that can help you meet the regulatory compliance effectively, then half your work is done. So ignoring regulatory compliance, a solution that is not going to help regulatory compliance is not going to be that effective. So regulatory compliance is absolutely critical. So what are the advantages, strategic advantages of MXDR? So obviously an MXDR solution cannot tell you that you have to rip and replace. So for instance, if you have made investments in your own SIM, in your EDR tool, or you have your own CASB, it should protect your investments so that everything can be integrated seamlessly. So there is always a debate on vendor lock-in versus vendor agnostic. A pure play MXDR platform has to be vendor agnostic. That means you can bring any solution that is available in the market and integrate with the MXDR solution and make things work. Yeah, so that's one major business strategic advantage for MXDR. And technically, if you see, extended threat detection. So extended threat detection means something happens today, right? So if you see cyber attacks doesn't happen over few hours, okay? So even if it is highly sophisticated attack, it takes a lot of time, yeah? So a threat starting today, it can evolve after 2 days. It can further evolve after a few more days, right? A solution like MXDR today has the capability to wait for a longer duration, even if it is 15 days or 30 days, to keep appending the alerts, right? So that you don't lose track of what is happening in your environment, right? Like I said, nothing is going to happen in just few hours, yeah? So there is ability to do extended threat detection is absolutely critical for technology like MXDR, and cross-device and cross-environment threat detection is critical. So we saw integration with your cybersecurity and FRM. So we are talking about not just that integration, we are talking about integration with IT, OT, IoT kind of environments. All these environments can be brought together with help of MXDR solution. And it gives you a single pane view where you can see all the alerts and threats for your enterprise, and also a unified platform for investigation and response. So I can't leave now without bragging about our own solution. So SISA, so we are leaders in the digital payment industry. So this is our MXDR stack. So if you see, it can integrate any environment, so be it your cloud, your IT, OT, IoT, network. So any environment is possible, either it is logs or alerts. We have the MXDR platform, we have our own SIM, we have the file integrity monitoring solution. So our threat detection UEBA is based on AML, which I explained how it works in one of the previous slide. So we have threat hunting, attack simulation, and also deep web, dark web monitoring. So all for detection. For enrichment, any data we can get from the clients. So we have our threat intel, our own threat intel is available. But if we get vulnerability management and other enrichment, it will boost the MXDR threat detection. So we have our own SOAR platform. We are PFI's payment forensic investigators. So our strength is IR and forensics. So as part of response, we provide IR, and for investigations, we do forensics. And for interfacing with the client, for governance, we have our MXDR unified portal, and we also have our own ITSM solution. So that's a quick overview of our MXDR stack. So now, Venu, I request you to come and take over. So
thank you, Mahendran. Thanks so much. Yeah. Okay, that was Mahendran for the extensive deep dive into the Proact MXDR solution. I'm sure all of you have found this information valuable. We have been working very closely with the Data Security Council of India, and we had in fact published a joint report on MXDR earlier this year. We had launched it in Bombay on 1st of March, and we also launched the solution here in India on March 1st. We've got some really good feedback and response from the market and from our customers. We went ahead and also launched the solution at the RSA conference in San Francisco earlier last month. So before we deep dive into the next session, which is a panel discussion with some of our industry leaders, I just wanted to, can you just go to the next slide, please? Spend a few minutes on who we are for those of you who wanted to. Sorry. Yeah. So we are a global forensics-driven cybersecurity solutions company, primarily in the digital payments space. We have customers all across the globe, and we are one of the leading global PCI forensic investigators. Our stack of forensic-driven solutions covers all the, right from preventive, detective, and responsive solutions. And we've been building this over a period of time. We are nearly 2 decades in the market. And we have a very strong base, especially in India as well as the APAC region. So many of our solutions have been built based on the feedback that we have got from our customers. And that's how we also arrived at building the MXDR platform very recently. So with that, I will hand over to, let me call Mr. Darshan Shantamurthy, the CEO of SISA, to come on stage. Yeah, while we wait for our chief guest, Mr. Vinayak is here? Okay, yeah. Vinayak, please come over to the stage. Sorry, I didn't see you. And Praveen. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Darshan. Thank you, Vinayak. Thank you, Praveen. Before we go ahead, and Mahindran, of course, yes, sorry, I forgot about you. But before you all go, we have a booth over here, booth number 20. You can grab a copy of the MXDR report and the PROACT white paper, which will be circulated. You can, in fact, pick up a copy when you leave this room after the session. Having said that, I will hand it over to Darshan. Thank you, Darshan.
Thanks, Venu. Very good afternoon to all of you. I hope this panel kind of cheers us up after a heavy lunch. Thanks, Mahindran, for the fantastic presentation. So one of the key things, many of you would have known SISA. We've been in the digital payment industry. It's our 18th year as we run the company. And we are super excited. And just to add to what Venu said, the MXDR is something that we launched 2 months back, but we've been in the managed detection response for almost 7-8 years now. One of the key things that comes out very importantly in our forensic investigations is the lead time for identifying these breaches, right? What we call as the dwell time. One of the key things, I'm not sure how many of you have read our forensics report we publish on a yearly basis called the Top 5 Forensic Learnings Report. It kind of highlights that there are about 204 days before we identify a breach, right? Before an organization identify a breach. And an additional 73 days to contain it. And in fact, these kinds of statistics is what led us to building our MDR solution way back in 2017. And 54% of the companies find it difficult to, how do you respond to those attacks? Right? So these are some of the statistics which got us up and running in 2017. And since then, we've been actively working on how do we, develop a solution which can be useful, make sense to the businesses. And that's one of the reasons why we've developed our own stack. Because organizations today are focused on outcomes and not so much so on, which, like an intruder is not going to say that I'm not going to go behind an environment because it has an X or a Y brand, but largely how well they are prepared. So the outcomes is what matters, and that's what got us to develop a solution such as PROACT way back in 2017. With that, I'll just start off with some of the questions that I have. First of all, we've got Vinayak, who doesn't need any introduction to this audience. And then we've got Praveen Kumar, who is the Chief Marketing Security Officer for the Indian National Payment Council of India, Corporation of India rather, the nodal arm of the payments, digital payments, the front runner. And then of course Mahindran, who leads our managed detection response, a person who's very hands-on in terms of whatever is happening in terms of detection response, has wide experience in detection response for the last 20 years. A very august panel, and let me start off with Vinayak first, right? So one of the key things is when we were talking about this was last in 2023, we were discussing with you in terms of what should we do, which is kind of elevate the game in terms of cyber defense. And one of the thoughts that Vinayak, you and I kind of broached was concept of extended detection response and how can we elevate that into outcome driven and hence MXDR. Would you just want to share your insights and thoughts on what was the thought behind you also working with us and coming forward to build this great research report which we have now put up in the public domain?
Thank you, Darshan, for getting me in this panel. So, if you look at one basic part of DSA working with SISA or players like SISA is like, if you have experiences, right, and being there for industry, working on payment for last so many years together, right, and also focusing your attention to forensic. Very few organizations focus and look at forensic as a play to really offer the services basically, right? And then payment industry experience for a long actually, right? And also serving not only Indian client but global client as well, right? So what we realize is like you have those kind of experiences, those learnings, those understanding basically, which you translate into some kind of a technology stack, which can address some of those challenges of setting up the defense capability, right? And we know there are different approaches to set up a defense capability. You have already invested in SIAM, so you try to build those capability ahead, right? But there are some organizations which probably they may invest capital to set up such kind of defense center, but they may not be able to manage it well, right? So the skill is very important part, right? And even if you get a skill for one point in time, you are not able to retain those skills as well, right? So, and then that's why there are multiple approaches came into the picture. So one is certainly MSSP, where you give it to the MSS provider, and they would do the way you ask for them to, right? So, but then as we move forward in terms of how the security resiliency ecosystem is evolving, right? And no matter how much we prepare, we talk about preparing better, and see, better means systematized, right? So if you have prepared systematically to address the issues that could go wrong, right? And also the response is also very organized, right? And to some extent, and to large extent automated as well, then you can look at detection and response as one of the important leapfrogging from all of those things. At least for some set of organization, this could be a good strategy basically, right? And that's why the concept as MXDR also evolved, right? And as one of the key approach to set up your defense and help with different set of organization, be it a medium enterprises, mid-sized enterprises, or be it an enterprise ecosystem, large enterprise ecosystem as well. And then we thought of this is a requirement of a government to understand this better and to know it better basically. And that's why we thought about engaging with your team, and we have a research team of DSCI which can produce some of this report, and engaging with the team to capture those experiences, understand those technology stack, and also learn from the experiences providing these services to the different set of the organization that you are serving in India and other parts of the globe. And that's why the intent of DSCI is to create knowledge and spread the best practices and provide quite a good insightful understanding about how things can be done. And there are multiple approaches, and when this could be one of the significant way for that. That's the reason that we thought to work with you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vinayak. In fact, one of the key things, both Vinayak and I, and of course Mahindran, were at the RSA conference, and when we launched this, we had got some great reviews, and we've been thought leaders in this space. And it was very well acknowledged that we could actually verticalize the detection and response in terms of the digital payments. So that was a very well accepted construct. Mahindran, following up on that, if you can just throw some light, and add to that report, that will be useful.
Few months back, so we did a forensic investigation. Yeah, so obviously the customer got breached. That's why we were involved, right? So they had a CASB solution, and in fact, the CASB solution had identified the threat. Yeah, so but it was so deep buried, right? The SOC team did not even notice it. Yeah, so that's how, even though the threat was detected, it was not actioned or not identified. So we have made significant investments in multiple different solutions over time. Yeah, so there are, like I said, so there is a legacy solution, there is a modern solution. So we have a habit of going and shopping the best and buying the best. But ultimately what we have seen repeatedly, Darshan, is that all these things are not working effectively. Yeah. So end of the day, the objective is to identify the threat on time. So if it is deep buried under false positives, so how do we expect the SOC team on the ground to identify it, right? So the idea behind MXDR is to simplify without disrupting the investment. So end of the day, CXO is more worried about what ROI they are getting for their investment, and never a rip and replace is not going to work at all. Yeah. So the whole idea is to simplify, keep the existing investment secured, allow the customer to gradually integrate their solutions and make the best use of all the investments they have made. That is MXDR, and that's what we have done in the last few months. Yeah, Darshan.
Yeah. Thanks, Mahendra. And taking off from there, right? So there's a lot of these jargons, right? So when I first heard, I think we were debating initially, what should we call this? First it was MSSP, then it's MDR, now it's MXDR. I don't know what all DRs we are going to add. But can you just explain briefly what are those, what does each of them stand for, right? So how do you differentiate between MSSP, MDR, MXDR, and does it really mean something?
So, so the jargons are always complicated, and it keeps coming up again and again. But if you see, MXDR, today for me, MXDR is on the top, yeah. So MDR is actually part of MXDR. So MDR is nothing but your managed detection and response. Many years back, if you see, you had your own SIM solution, and then either you support it in-house, or you offshore it, or you ask an MSSP to come and support your product that you have bought from a different vendor. So that's more of MSSP kind of a concept. And many customers, they realized that's not their core business. Their business is something else, and they don't want to keep buying the product and asking somebody to manage. There came MDR. So it's a complete outsourcing of the solution. That means any MDR provider today, you see, they should have their own solution stack, which is SIM, whatever you add, EDR, etc., etc. So that is MDR. You are completely outsourcing your detection and response. Now, MXDR is one level above, where we are circling back and solving the same problem, where if many investments have been made in the organization, can there be a platform which can integrate and do meaningful threat detection? That is MXDR. So you have XDR, which is like a very closed, so there are many players in the market who offer everything. But an MXDR generally is considered to be open, so it should work with any solution that is available in the market. So that's the difference.
Thanks, Mahendra. Praveen, you lead the cybersecurity for one of the most important organizations in the country, right? So tell us something about what is so unique about defending digital payment industry, right? So digital payment industry, I mean, just for the clarification of the audience here, digital payment industry includes any organization that takes digital payments, consumes digital payments. Either it can be a retailer, it can be an airline, but largely anyone who either processes or consumes digital payments. So if you can just throw some light.
Sure. Thank you, Darshan and Vinayak, for inviting me here, and happy to be here to share my thought. Let me start with the disclaimer that I'm here in my personal capacity as a security professional or security practitioner, and there's no correlation of my statement and word with my official statement of NPCI. So this is a disclaimer. So if you permit, Darshan, sure. Let me add what he has said about EDR, because I have seen the evolution. So last 25 years I've been practicing this. So the difference between, and as you could relate based on the presentation of Mahendran, right? So antivirus and EDR. So when EDR came, I think 4 or 5 years back, it revolutionized the security of endpoint, right? How it was different from antivirus, but if you look at the horizontal scale of the protect and the detect. So antivirus was kind of the protection tools, right, or protection capacity. But EDR brought the protection plus detection both, right? Now we are moving towards the XDR. So EDR was limited to the endpoint, and XDR is kind of computing the everything, be it cloud, be it IT, be it OT, be it network, be it all the infrastructure component. That's why if you get the logs from all the puzzles, all the pieces of puzzles, then you will have the better correlation. And that's why, now the modern company are moving from antivirus to EDR. Now they are also moving from EDR to XDR. So this is the kind of small addition from my side. Now, answering your specific question, since I worked with the three largest digital payment company in my past, so I have gained a little bit experience. So we are definitely part of BFSI of India, right? So, but digital payment has some unique kind of challenge as well, right? So digital payment, which consists of fintech. If you integrate anything with fintech, means they are technologically innovative company, right? So the new OS, new software, new application, and that brings the kind of complexity in the ecosystem. So fintech brings some kind of challenges, not in that way, different way, but they also provide the new innovative solution. But that new technology always be challenging to integrate with the payment system. Second is that we are also into the kind of transaction based, right? So we cannot afford to have any kind of downtime, right? It's a TPS game. If you could see all the transaction on payment gateway, that this is one of the challenge for CISO to ensure that 100% availability of the infrastructure and the application and the services. That the third challenge on the regulatory compliance perspective, right? So it's one of the again biggest challenge, and so many, and thanks to RBI, right? They are bringing new regulation to regulate this evolving market, which is good step, and they are taking care of this. All those are like other compliance requirements like PCI, ISO, etc., are also helping this. But there is always challenge for any digital company or new fintech to adhere with those stricter compliance. But in long run, definitely that is always helpful. So that is one of the challenge for a smaller company. I'm not talking about the established company, but that is one of the challenge for them. Now, the other challenge on this, right, on this particular topic, right? So you have the alert fatigue, definitely, right? So you have the different tools in your SOC, and correlating all those alerts and eliminating all the false positive is a challenge for any SOC analyst or SOC manager. Right? That is another challenge for us. So these are the few challenges what we have in the digital payment industry perspective. So if you have any follow-up question, happy to answer.
Sure. I think that gives us context probably to Mahendra too. You spoke a lot about detection and response for the digital payment industry, right? So why is it so unique? I mean, so why is detection response verticalized or requirement of a verticalization, right, for a digital payment industry?
So the digital payment industry is always a high value target. Yeah. So we can't avoid that. Yeah. So we have so much critical data. So you can see, Darshan, in the morning you were telling that 10x in the dark web, digital payment, anything sensitive digital payment data is sold 10x more than your normal PII data that is available everywhere else. Yeah. So digital payment industry is going to be always a hot target because of the high value data that is there. And at the same time, the regulatory compliance is also very, very heavy in the digital payment space. So the solution that we are developing for a digital payment has to ensure that it balances both. So it has to take care of threat detection so that you can protect yourself from the AI-powered adversaries who are only going to improve. And at the same time, the solution should also help meet the compliance requirements. So that fine balance is absolutely critical. If you see in the white paper, so we have listed top 10 reasons why an MXDR solution can help a digital payment industry. So if you read it, you will get a lot of insights from there, Darshan.
Sure. Yeah, perfect. And that's when I think you brought out the fraud, mapping the fraud management system and enriching the alerts. So that
Correct.
becomes, yeah.
Correct. So one more point I want to add is that, see, we have done investigations in the past where a cyber security breach has resulted into significant fraud activities. Okay. The other way around is not that common. So A fraud resulting into cybersecurity breach may not happen that common, but the cybersecurity breach to fraud can be a disaster. And for this specific organization, so they end up spending crores, right? So a MXDR solution can integrate both, and it can make it more and more meaningful, right? So that flexibility is there today, yeah, with help of MXDR.
Right. Moving forward, the next question, one of the digital payment industry I spoke in the morning is growing at over 20%, I think, compounded annual growth. And I think NPCI were to take, and I think last month we did about 14 billion transactions in a month, right? So that's a whopping, and across the world, digital payment industry is growing. Now, one, you spoke about regulatory compliance, penalties, security, high value targets. But at the same time, when you work with a lot of organizations, most of these organizations are growing at neck-breaking speed, which is, which makes that security has to really play a catch-up game. What do you advise? How does the organization go between balancing all of that, and then you have CISOs in the room saying, hey, there's security problems. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so if you look at how we see, right, and at a lot of discussion happened at national level in different sectors, and especially for this BFSI sector, right? So there is a supply chain of transaction processing, right? And there are expectations that each of them behave and responsible to security, nowadays privacy as well, right? And in this transaction ecosystem, so there is a digitization of end consumer also happening, right? And their footprint is now increasingly accessible, unknown, right? And there are very interesting use cases of a modus operandi that we see day to day, right? Is the kind of calls and kind of the pace at which modus operandi are coming, and they're able to understand. And now entire generative AI capabilities are at their hand, right? So in this ecosystem, there is definitely worry about in the line of this transaction processing. There are so many organizations now helping you to, for a big bank for that matter, execute transaction. There are a lot of external dependency. For example, UPI is an external initial transaction where you are probably serving those requests of processing transaction basically, right? So the dependency is there on an external ecosystem. So how do you make sure that each player in that ecosystem behaves securely, right? And there's a burden of security, right? If you try to have similar set of expectations from the bank and then similar set of expectations from the fintech ecosystem and many other players in comes into the system, and that's why you need a very efficient, productive way of managing security, right? And some of these approaches, for some players, for that matter, without going into security, can they manage security? Without going to nuances, can they manage security basically? So some of these approaches that we have, earlier with MSS, but now some promise, like detection and response is a managed detection and response you talk about. And there is a lot of worry about the issues that could create larger ramification, and there are a lot of compliance obligations for that basically. If somebody is helping me to take care of that in a very systematic, in a very productive, in a very efficient way and assured way basically, right? So then probably it's a relieving this supply chain from the security challenges and problems basically, right? So I see from that perspective, some of these approaches will be useful to make sure that people focus on their core business and let at least operational part of security, day-to-day detection response part of security taken care by expert in the market basically. So such kind of construct is going to really create a lot of efficiency and productivity in the game of managing security.
Right, and also to your point, help these organizations balance costs and focus on what's really important for them. Yeah. Phenomenal. Yeah. Praveen, question is, taking from what Vinayak just mentioned, now organizations should now focus on outcomes, right? Rather than trying to say which solution which product do I need to implement. So, is that resonating with CISOs in the industry, or what do you think?
So what are the common challenges for any CISOs, right? So common challenges is that how any CISO can optimize the investment, right? Investment in terms of processes and tools, right? So there would be number of tools, there will be number of process. Any CISO would like to see the visibility of the tool, how they can optimize, how they can maximize the ROI on the existing tools. Second, the challenge for CISO to how to increase the productivity for any that CISO organization, right? So coming to the alert fatigue, coming to number of false positive, and then productivity is definitely a challenge, and managing so many numbers of tools is another challenge, and which decreases the productivity. The third challenge is to address the skill gaps, right? So yes, there are lots of attrition in CISO organization, especially in the cybersecurity industry, right? And so there will be always a skill gap in any of the CISO's organization, right? So how to address that skill gaps, right? So if you are capable to manage and address these all gaps, don't go all your own, right? So you may have your own SOC, you may run your 24/7 SOC, you may have all the sophisticated tool. It all depends on your policies, your pocket size, or your capability, or your all those, right? But there is option available depending on your priority, depending on your expertise and the business goal, right? You can take this managed services route, right? So I have run the both kind of organization where we outsourced the complete SOC operation as part of MDR and MXDR to one of the organization, and I also run the entire SOC on our own. So there is plus minus, Darshan. This is individual to take call based on number of parameters, but definitely I can see the lots of advantage because especially in the MXDR platform, which you launched this right recently, and I have just seen the presentation from Mahendran. I think it creates lots of promises. So to look at this and see that compare with your current status with this claimed benefit, and take call accordingly. This is what I would suggest.
Yeah, fantastic. It comes to this important question now. As this AI-powered adversaries, right? So now I think Mahendran touched that briefly during his presentation. I think first of all, the fact that there's going to be increased amount of spear phishing, right? And targeted, and many of them is going to get successful because of generative AI. And second is, of course, the fact that many of the organizations have still unpatched systems. But what's your prediction, Vinayak? I mean, you spoke earlier on Web 5.0, and how do you see this AI-powered adversaries really? And especially, I mean, it's very naive. I remember the Willie Sutton statement way back, the famous US robber, right? He once said that when he was caught in the early 1900s, he was asked, "Why do you rob banks?" And he looked at the press reporter in awe, and he said, "You must be a fool. That's where the money is." And it's quite natural that with AI-powered, with all the power, they are going to come behind the digital payment industry, right? So that's where the money is, and they don't know things. So what do you see happening? I mean, your prediction.
I mean, the big worry, right? If you go to Hugging Face, right? Last time I checked, last week, is around 650,000, right? So 650,000 models exist, right? And those models, many of those are open source models as well, where you can download and you can use those models basically, right? And whereas some of the models which we have from the big players, right? So they started putting a lot of those controls on output that it throws basically, right? And there is a lot of safety, privacy, many standards that are shaping the way the models are being developed, and mostly the significant models would be basically adhering to those kind of principles which is coming in. But if you are using some of those models which are new, which are open source, and there is no control in terms of what exactly you are trying to do with that model, right? So that's one level of challenge is like, how do you manage so many models and use, and some of those models are very open source in nature, right? Second part is, organizations are constrained in terms of how they use LLMs basically, right? Means we are putting a lot of those controls in terms of how do you use it, a lot of moderation, a lot of those controls has been put together, and sometimes some organizations even ban people not to use these LLMs basically. Whereas those capabilities are available for attackers and for the fraudsters a lot basically. So what we say is there are correlation that you can build, means how the correlation works. Some of the use case, for example, I can talk in this, although it's public, but for example, somebody not even sharing anything about the family on any social media. Still now you can build a correlation that what is the relation between these two persons, right? There is one of our startup father, one of the startup founders' father got a call that I kidnap your son. And we just try to look at what is that use case. So how do you know without even any digital footprint basically? And yes, there are some very distant digital footprint. You can bring that together and try to understand this is a probably possibility, and then use and exploit that for possible modus operandi. So you'll see a lot of those unimaginable modus operandi coming into picture because of this capability basically, right? And then once you execute that, there is a way for you to really do other operations as well. So it's for example, large action model, right? You can, we mostly know LLM, but can you make use of LLM-driven actions to do this automation of the fraudulent activity basically. And as we are building stage kind of responses or security, you can also build stage kind of a fraudulent entire design, and every steps can be automated with the use of the LLMs basically. So we will be seeing a lot of challenges coming future, and how do you thought that is a very important part. We have been deliberating on this topic with different government institutions, what should we do with such kind of thing for fraudulent activity basically. I'm not going to security is still a different discussion altogether. Fraudulent activity, how do you do it basically? So we have to see how the things will be panning out for us in the coming future.
It'll be interesting. I think our forensics team will have to be ready for that.
Yeah.
So I just we had this earlier discussion on ransomware, session, and just quickly we spoke about double extortion and triple extortion, Mahendran. So just your thing, how does MXDR help in from a pure CISO's perspective? How does it help stop?
So see, the MXDR solution is going to significantly improve detection. Yeah. So for ransomware kind of situation, how quickly you can detect a ransomware threat will make a big difference. Otherwise, they will quickly do the lateral movement and move forward, right? So the whole idea is to improve MTTD. If we don't improve MTTD, then the threat actors are going to improve MTTO, Darshan. What they are going to do is, they are going to make their mean time to achieve their objectives significantly faster because of AI/ML. So if we are not acting fast, they are going to act fast. So MTTD is going to play a big role in MXDR.
Phenomenal. I'm done with almost any questions from the audience?
No, we just 1 or 2 minutes left. Yeah.
Okay. Just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. With that, Venu, back to you.
Okay. Can we have a round of applause for the gentleman on the stage, please?
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinayak. Thank you for having us over at this conclave this year as the digital payment security partner, and for making time for this. I know you're jumping from one panel to another. Thank you, Praveen, for being a part of this panel discussion. Thank you, Mahendran, for the workshop and the deep diving into the MXDR solution. And Darshan, thank you so much for moderating the session. So gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for attending this workshop. Oh yeah, there's a question from the audience.
Sir, good afternoon. My name is Ashok Agarwal from RiskPro. My question is for Mr. Vinayak. whenever we take in consent and the retention of that data, what is your views, which is not clear as of now?
You are talking data protection
Yeah.
specific concern.
Yeah.
Can we discuss that offline, because this session is on
Okay.
the MXDR, but we certainly talk and discuss about that basically.
Fine. We can
Okay.
discuss.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we have a photograph,
me.
please, all of you?
I just have one more query. I have a query to Mr. Chandramohan.
Yeah.
First of all, in the MXDR, do you think concentration is a risk? If yes, how do you address that?
Sorry, come again.
In the platform like MXDR, do you think concentration risk is one of the risk factors?
What risk, sorry?
Concentration risk. Pooling too many resources and providing the services to too many entities at the same time. Point number one.
See, that I don't consider that as a risk. See, like I said in the beginning, right? There is always going to be a transformation happening in any environment. So you are going to see a legacy system, you are going to see a modern system. Even 5 years from now, you are going to see that cycle happening again and again. So the smart thing to do is to integrate all of them into a solution. The other side of it is you have to take the risk and go for completely a vendor-driven solution, which is a complete stack. Yeah? So that is also another risk, right? So with MXDR, what you are getting, even though it is getting concentrated a bit, but you have the liberty of going and buying whatever you want, which we all like to do, right? And still get the maximum out of it. Yeah. So I still feel that the risks are very much contained with an open solution.
My query was specifically related to in case, let us the manpower resource, the skilled resource at the MXDR level. If they are not able to detect an attack, it would affect the many entities at the same time. So I would like to have comments on that.
So the
Because
whole
it has
idea.
happened in the past.
Okay, so the whole idea with MXDR is to even reduce the risk at the skill level also, right? So that is why if you see, I extensively spoke about reducing the false positive, making the threats meaningful, right? I kept on telling that the poor SOC team is always at the receiving end. So we have come a very long way, like many years now. So 15, 20 years we have been running SOC SIM solution, but one team that is always impacted is the SOC team, which is always facing alert fatigue. An MXDR solution, it's going to reduce a lot of burden and it is going to encourage a lot of automation. Yeah. So with automation and meaningful threats, I think the dependency on skills is going to come down. It's not going to eliminate. It is going to greatly reduce the dependency on the people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you all. Sorry, we have to end the session here because there's another session going to begin here. So if you have any more questions, please visit booth number 20 and you can ask, have a talk with Mahindran. Thank you, Mr. Vinayak Godse. Thank you, Mr. Praveen Kumar. Thank you, Darshan. Thank you, Mahindran. Can you have a picture, please?